In this video, I'm going to show you a new exciting tool I have decided I'm going to try out for dry point printmaking. The reason why I've decided to use it is because I was after a very specific effect and style. So this is the finished product. There are two different prints. And the reason why I'm excited about this tool is because it allows me to create very fine marks in dry point very quickly without having to add too much pressure, but also it allows me to create a thicker line, which is difficult with a dry point tool. So you're asking, what is it? It is a soldering iron. And it looks like this. It's a very cheap DIY tool which gets hot, and the reason why it works really well, and it works really well on any sort of colograph surface. In my case, I've used a ENVIROMOUNT board, which is basically a cardboard with a gloss finish, which means it's coated with a thin layer of plastic. So a soldering iron is really good at making marks on it because it sort of burns through it, but burns, you can use sort of a thicker point of the soldering iron, which is the bend point, to create thicker marks, or the very sharp point to create really fine lines. And the effect I was after is, as you can see, there's loads of lines drawn here, which would be quite a lot of effort with a dry point tool, because you have to press really hard with it. With this, you don't have to press at all because it just burns the surface. This is why it's so exciting, and this is the style I was particularly after. It's like almost you did a drawing with a biro, and to have that style in printmaking is really exciting. So this is a video about this technique using this DIY tool, and why not, and hope you find it useful and interesting, and it will spur you on to do some dry point printing yourself. Anyway, thank you for watching, and like and subscribe, and that always helps me because I can make more videos and reach wider audience. Thanks again. So I'm going to try to reproduce this drawing I made at my life drawing class, and I'm going to use my tool to do that on a ENVIROMOUNT board, which is shiny, so it should wipe ink off quite well. So it's essentially like a dry point board, very similar to a plastic one. So I'm going to use that. And I have a large tracing paper, so I'm going to trace my image, and then I'm going to reverse it onto here, and hopefully end up with a good base to start my dry point work. And I won't bore you to death with my tracing video, so I've just sped it up quickly just so you can see, get a gist of it. Not a very good see-through tracing paper. I think it would have been better if it was a little bit more see-through. I've got some really handy carbon paper, which I'm going to use to trace my image. Before I start my dry point, I'm going to just, because what I love about my original sketch is I've got some really good highlights here, and I don't want to lose these highlights, so I'm going to just make sure that I mark them. Okay, I think it's warm enough now, so So as you can see, I'm hardly pressing at all. It's very gentle mark making, and it's really easy to do as well. And apologies for camera going in and out of focus. I think it's my head getting in the way, but I think you get the picture. So as you can see, it's almost like drawing with a pencil. It's really easy. And this is a great bit here because you essentially can make thicker lines. So I'm going over the thicker lines that I've drawn on my design, and these will show a lot thicker than with this sort of blunt part of soldering iron. It will show up a lot thicker than the lines that I've scratched with the pointy side. So anyway, I finished drawing all my lines, and as you can see, it's taken a little while. I didn't just sped up the video and used the thicker part of the soldering iron as well as the thinner part, and I was sort of referring to my design all the time, which was a little bit tricky because it was in reverse. So when I was doing shading, it was quite easy to sort of make a mistake and do shading on the wrong side. So because I want to get these dark areas in, and it's quite difficult to do it just with the lines, I'm going to use AKUA CARBORANDUM plate making gel. And it's basically a gel with some carborandum in it. So it will create dark areas in my print. So first of all, I want to get the dude's hair in. And then I've just followed up with the other areas as well. If you don't have AKUA carborandum gel, you can also use carborandum and mix it with acrylic medium. It works just as well. Here I'm just going to use some acrylic paint. Acrylic paint is matte, so it will by default trap ink. It will create a mid-tone, I would say. That's sort of nice painterly strokes. What I could do actually is wait for both to dry and add some more of those dry point marks. Actually, I might mix this carborandum with, just to give it a more even appearance. Obviously, none of it will make sense until I actually do a proof print. And here it's just showing how I've added some finishing touches of more shadows and also some mark making with the soldering iron. So the plate is now ready for a proof print. I really want to see what, basically this is just to see what I need to do really, because it's very difficult to tell what the plate will print like. So I'm using shop mixed drypoint black intaglio printmaker's ink, which is an intaglio ink, and I have inked up with just a piece of cardboard, and I'm working the ink in with a SCRIM and wiping it off. This, in retrospect, actually, as you can see that the image is actually starting to show now. That looks lovely, doesn't it? In retrospect, I think I overwiped. The image ended up being very light, which is not so much of a problem because it's only a proof print. And I sure didn't make that mistake as a second time. And a wonderful cotton bud effect. I love that, to show highlights, especially in this live drawing, is exactly what I did in the class. So to be able to recreate that is brilliant. So finally, I'm ready to print. Here we go. The plate is on the press and let's do it. So like with all my prints, I use 300 GSM watercolor paper and it's soaked for at least 20 minutes and blot dried. So it's not wet to touch, but it's actually wet through. And newsprint is put on to protect my blankets. Don't want them to get wet. The tightness of the press is adjusted, and that's it. Here it comes. So, the overall feel is, yes, a little bit overwiped, but then again, we do have an idea of all the lines. And as you can see, these lines are kind of like a drawing, a biro drawing. So really effective tool, really pleased with it, but I need to tweak it a little bit more and I'm going to show you what I'm going to do next. But before I do that, I just wanted to discuss the outcome and what caused it. So first of all, my initial feeling is I would like to experiment more and utilize more of this sort of mark making with the soldering iron, the dry point lines with the soldering iron. And I don't have very many lines here, so I'd like to explore a little bit more about that. And also, I think I'd like to mute down the shadows, and I'm going to do that with putting over gloss medium, and that will certainly tone them down a little bit. And also, the next time I'm going to ink up and wipe, I'm not gonna wipe so hard. I'm going to leave more ink on the plate. I feel like I wanted to have a darker image, more lines and more muted shadow. So sort of more moody image I'm after. So this little clip, just sped up clip, just shows you basically how I'm using gloss medium to mute down the darks. And you'll be surprised how dark they still end up being, even though I've put gloss media over them. So I didn't film making more of those dry point lines, but I just wanted to show you here what they look like sort of with the light. I waited for the evening light to show you. It's a little bit easier to see just how many lines I have scratched into it. Well, I guess burnt into it. I should get quite a lot of them showing in my second print. So here I'm just going to show you the reveal. I'm not going to bore you with inking up and using my press. So here we go. Yeah, there's a lot more texture and light and darker areas, which is what I wanted. I wanted more kind of moody print. And I've got lots and lots of lines. I've muted down the shades and yeah, so all in all, the print is not completely finished yet. It does still need a lot of work. I think I think I could do some more to it. I'd like to actually add some red, like in my original sketch. I'd like to add some red to it with ink as well. Yeah, play about with it a little bit more, perhaps some chincolet. Maybe the sort of head part still needs a bit of work, but anyway, work in progress. I hope you found this useful in your own practice and in dry point printmaking. And as always, I will post all the details of all the materials I have used in a description, but if you have any questions at all, please ask me in the chat and I will be happy to answer anything with regards to this project video. Thank you.